Got enough people here to get started. And we're going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council to order. It is 12:04. Let's go ahead with roll call.
Monica Isham.
Here.
Julia Lyons.
Here.
Grant Gerber. Andy Alvarado.
Here.
Mike Wohler.
Here.
Tweed Schuman. Doug Motek. Bruce Paquette.
Here.
Bobby Hinkfest. Mark Helwig.
Here.
Elaine Smith. Marshall Savitsky. Kathy McCoy is excused. Bill Trepanier. You have 9, including 1 non-voting member.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get certification of compliance with the open meetings law?
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Okay, everyone has had an opportunity to review today's agenda. Any additions, deletions, changes that we need to make here?
Oh. Yes, and I think we're going to have this corrected going forward. So under youth justice, it's not a truancy ordinance update, just a youth justice update is fine.
Okay. So we'll just take A out.
Yep.
Anything else? Does anybody else have anything they want to change? Okay, then let's move on. Let's see. Public comments? Hearing none. All right, let's go to approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Everyone has had an opportunity to review those. Any changes that need to be made?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion has been made in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, I think that brings us to the jail report update.
Thank you. The August 24 jail report, we saw an average daily population of 61.25, 19.25 of those being females and 42 being males. Our average probation incarceration, excuse me, was at 21.25. Pre-sentence incarceration was at 32. Average sentence incarceration was at 8. At the time of the report, we had 1 out on electronic monitor. And our current unemployment rate is at 71.4. Below, there is also, Kathy had requested that we go over some of the programming that was available to the inmates of the Sawyer County Jail. I'll touch base on this. Becky can go over some of the professional visitors and things of that such. The list that is provided here is just the programming that's available on their inmate texters, handheld devices that every inmate to the jail is issued. Our maximum security inmates are not issued a texter, but once they're reclassified down to a medium, they do receive a handheld texter device. And I believe there's a few pages here of everything that's available on the handheld devices. If anybody had any questions on that, otherwise, I don't know if we want to turn over to Becky and she's got some more for jail programming of what else is offered as well.
Okay, I don't think there's any questions. Becky, do you want to offer anything?
I can do whatever. I can go through and give you kind of an overview of what each program entails if you want, or what we have for professional visitors. We do want to highlight that we have had 21 successful GED completions so far. Now we are entering a new school year, but in the 23-24 school year, 21 GED completions is really something to celebrate. So, and that is due to the the dedication of Oralee Carroll, who works with Northwood Tech, but she is very, very dedicated, and the jail residents really relate to her, and she goes over and above. So I would really love some recognition for her, because that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for her. All of our professional visitors, that's volunteer time.
If you would like them mentioned in the minutes, could you please spell the name for me?
Yes. Lieutenant, do you want to do that? I don't know what our, the
It's,
weather is really bad here, so I don't know what we're,
it's right in the,
Yep.
can you see it? It's AUR, or are you looking for it? Keep going. It's actually highlighted
yeah, I did list
in
each professional visitor that specifically.
there, right there where the highlight is her name, or right before it is her name. Yeah, please do that. Thank you. Aurelia, I think she said.
Oralee Carroll.
Oralee?
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Did you hear that? Yes.
Okay, good. So in addition to everything that we have listed here, we were just contacted this week. And again, these are the programs that we've offered this year. But so we were just contacted this week by Heidi Ungroat from UW Extension, and she asked us if we were interested in offering something called Inside Out. It's very similar to something that we've had in the past called Reading Memories. And what that is it's a literacy, a reading program that is offered via Zoom, that UW Extension offers via Zoom, but one of our staff, a Justice Point staff, works, is the liaison for jail residents. We have 4 participants who are signed up to participate in that program, and it's a 10-week-long program. I can send out the brochure that she sent for that to Lynn, and if Lynn wants to distribute that to members. But it is, like I said, it's a literacy reading program for jail residents to communicate with their children and families while they're incarcerated.
Great. Is there any other that you wanted to highlight, Becky?
Not as far as programs go. We are, we're always actively pursuing new programs and funding for new programs. So if anybody knows of anything, you can always reach out to myself or Lieutenant and let us know, and we'll vet those properly. The professional visitor applications are available on the Sheriff's Department website. So they're easily accessible to anyone at any time. And it does take a little bit of time for people to get approved. So in the interim period, what we encourage people to do, while they're waiting for their applications to get approved, is to go through the public access, and that's through Relias. And it's very, very simple. Lieutenant and I both did it ourselves so that we understand the process. The only thing that you need to do that is your driver's license number, to make sure you have that readily available when you're creating an account.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, under self-help items, what does DRIFT mean?
It's an acronym. I don't have that off the top of my head here.
Is Becky?
Let me pull up the application and look at what you're looking at, Mark. I guess I don't see that. Sorry. where is that at?
Under, it's the third bullet point underneath self-help items. I think it must be an acronym for something. What does it stand for? Do you know?
It's on the Reliance tablets, Becky.
Oh, so that's something that somebody asked you to upload?
Correct, yep.
I would have to look because I don't have that. I have limited access to things right now because I'm
In the middle of a hurricane?
yes, yes. I was trying not to say that because it sounds
How are you
so
doing?
bad.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. We are being taken care of very, very well.
Good.
We really are. This is the best way I can explain it is that the people here, this is like, it's like us having a snowstorm. It's
Okay.
not a big deal to anybody here.
Well, okay then. All right, Judge Smith, go ahead.
Becky, I was wondering if, under the classes that you're working on, if you ever came across trauma-informed class, because we're finding that, we're probably needing that in all areas because people who are in recovery, we're finding, have these trigger points, and sometimes when they go to particular offices or they're looking for help from different agencies or something, it's in the way they may be greeted by somebody, it may trigger things in the past and they may like overreact or refuse, like walk away, refuse the services. And so I was just wondering if that was possible to look for a trauma-informed care class.
We actually, so Katie Ann is actually certified in trauma-informed facilitation. The problem is that she doesn't have the time to facilitate those classes in the jail. And so she facilitates them for people who are referred in either diversion or treatment court. So yes, Judge Smith, we absolutely would love to do that in the jail. We would have to get somebody certified as a professional visitor to go in and facilitate those courses.
Thank you. That's good to know too. All right. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, or anything for either Becky or Lieutenant Waller? Okay. I think we're moving on. Going once, going twice. Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate your time and stay safe there, Becky.
Is it okay if I give my update right now so that I can log out? We're told
You're the
that-
next anyway, so yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. Let me pull up. Sorry, I'm just trying to find all of my documents. Okay, so our current numbers, Lynn, were you able to circulate what I sent you?
On the screen.
Okay, great.
The packet.
Okay, so our current numbers on pretrial, we have 154. On diversion, we have 13 active. In treatment court, we have 9 active. And so we have pending referrals. We have 18 for pretrial, 1 referral for diversion. And I am happy to say that our new case manager has started taking clients, which means that we will be able to start working through our wait list as of this week. We're hoping so that means we're going to be able to start taking people off of our over capacity memos. So for the judges, we'll start in chronological order from the oldest over capacity memos, working through that list. It's important that when we reach out to those clients, that we have their contact information. So we only have what they gave us during our assessments with them. And if we are not able to contact them, we will, of course, reach out to the clerk of court and see what they have. But we have a time limit for each client. And if they don't get back to us during that time limit, we will be issuing violation reports to the court. And I will send you both an email just to remind you that that's what our process is going to be. Because that is a violation of their bond conditions, that they haven't updated us of their contact information if we're not able to get a hold of them. So just so you're both aware of that. And then we'll filter through that overcapacity list and hopefully start being able to take new clients as soon as possible. But I'll keep you abreast of, where we're at with that list, and hopefully we'll be able to get through it quickly. Does that make sense?
Oh, yep, makes sense to me.
Okay. So that's where we're at with pretrial. Diversion and treatment court are both moving along well. We've talked in treatment court work group about, how that's working, about what we need, because we've requested more TAD funding, about if people want, what kind of changes we want and how we need to communicate that, how I need that, that I need it by like mid-October because our grant is due in November. So I need to be able to communicate that in our grant. So if anybody in CJCC would like me to relay any of that in the grant, please have that to me by October also, so that I can make sure that that's a part of, whether it's a part of the narrative, whether it's a part of the budget, the goals and objectives, any of that. So, by our next CJCC meeting, if there's anything that you want from me to be reflected in that, please be thinking about that. And if you want to email me before then, or if you want to state it at our next meeting, however you want to let me know. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I don't see any.
Okay. So this conference itself was going very well until they canceled it. I don't have much to report from this. We submitted a grant application for building bridges 2 weeks ago. I will keep everybody posted on how that goes. That's for MAT implementation in the jail. Some of you are a part of that work group, and I very, very much appreciate all of your time, dedication, experience, knowledge with that. Fingers crossed. And it was the last time I submitted an application with for this type. It took a while, so I'm not expecting a response for like 3 or 4 months. But just to put your mind at ease, once again, Andy, this is a non-match grant. So if we do get it, there isn't any county match. I can't think of any other updates that we have right now, but I am a little preoccupied. Does anybody have any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Becky? Okay, I don't think there are any.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your time, Becky. I know you're probably struggling with service and stuff too, because you're kind of, I'm watching the flashing on there. If you want to log
It's
off, I think we
really,
still have
it's
enough,
really
yeah.
windy.
Yeah. Well, we all hope that you stay safe there and keep us updated.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay. All right, let's see. Where does this bring us here? Oh, yeah. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I had this
Gearing
on
up for 10?
number 10. I
Okay.
had this added to the agenda here because we did have it on our public safety agenda last week. So just as an update, we have a CJCC MOU with the tribe that expired this spring. We initiated discussion on renewing it. And in late April, we're informed that the TGB had declined to renew it. And then in May, heard that they were reconsidering that. And the last communication officially was in June. And that was from the Assistant Attorney General saying that they were trying to agree on changes they wanted to the MOU. And so we've tried to initiate conversations back then and since then as to where we're at with the MOU. And really have gotten no additional information or headway on that. So we've tried not to push the issue because this is not like, we know we're gonna have an ongoing relationship and don't wanna be too overreactive, let's say that. But I brought it on to public safety because at some point we'll need to address it. Now we're getting into next year's budget process. Part of that MOU is that each, the county and the LCO contribute $50,000 to the CJCC. And then that's used as match for the TAD grant and other programming. We have not received money in this year. And now we're trying to figure out what to do for next year. And the other part of that MOU is that it outlined the membership of the CJCC, and the county board appoints 2 people and the TGB appoints 2 people. And so if we don't have an MOU, what are we gonna do? Like, how are we gonna address it again? Not looking to burn the bridge or be too overreactive, but at some point we need to address it. And nothing was decided last week at public safety just to keep them up to date and continue to try to ignite the conversation. And I know part of it, informally, we had heard that some of the changes they wanted were in some of the data that we collect and how it's shared. I think we're open to that. Other than that, though, I don't know what other changes they wanted to the MOU.
All right,
So-
Judge Smith, and I did get an update too. Judge Smith, go ahead.
I have, I guess what you'd consider an update. Last Thursday, I went in to talk to the chairman about something else and Tweed was in there and David was in there and Tweed brought that up. He said, and by the way, we are working on that MOU for CJCC. And then the chairman asked, well, what's taking so long? So I know that it's ongoing. What I can do is go find out where they are in the process and what is taking so long.
And thank you for saying that. I actually did talk with them also, and I got an update as well. So the reason that Tweed and Bill are not here is they're at a conference, but they did say that I could give this update and that there's a couple of additions as far as language goes, and then there was term questions that they were discussing, but it's with legal and they're strung through a lot of things right now and there's not a lot of time, but they were optimistic. He said he shares because I believe that you had said at the public safety meeting, you agree that we're stronger together and he shares in that. And so it was a very positive and an optimistic conversation. I think it's more stalling because of time and people. It's just one of those things where there's 2 attorneys and a lot to do. But I do think that we need to keep our kind of finger on it and keep working through it. So, but sounds positive.
And I can just add one thing, and I know Becky's not on, but for her sake, I think there was a little bit of a miscommunication or perception that the CJCC or the MOU is about Justice Point because, Justice Point does work to keep the TGB updated. And sometimes the TGB calls when this agreement comes up and wants them to come out and present. Justice Point is just one component, and they kind of lean on Justice Point to give them what's happening in the data. And that's tried to convey that And we have a contract with Justice Point to deliver pretrial diversion, the TAD programming. That's really just one, it's the biggest part, but it's just one element of CJCC. Now we're getting into youth justice and mental health and jail programming. So I think it's, take the big picture. Again, definitely we're stronger together. So we want to continue all this. We're making progress. So that'd be a really bad time to stop.
The other thing too is I always support Justice Point when I, hear anything from somebody and, because we work with them closely with their Healing to Wellness Court. So I know that they do a great job. And so I don't know what that's all about, but anyway, I hope that it gets settled.
And that's where most of the funding goes, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's why they have a concern, because that's.
So I'm glad that you did put this on here, and I, following the public safety meeting, I did put it on my always growing, never shortening to-do list. But I'm glad I was able to talk with them before this. And they both said that they would have been here had it not been for this other conference. So hopefully we can just kind of get back on that discussion and kind of keep it going forward. So I appreciate it. Maybe we should actually keep it as something that's on the agenda so that we can make sure it doesn't get forgotten, essentially. Does anybody else have anything on that topic or questions? Okay. All right. I think we can move on then. Let's go to Health and Human Services report.
I actually don't have a report this week. Or this month, I guess it's a month. We have been really focused, or Joyce has been really focused on getting the emergency sheltering exercise up and running, which is running today. So that is the main focus for right now. And then we'll be back on track with where we're at with things. School's just started. So I know one of the things I guess I briefly can say is we're going to be looking really a lot at vaping and programming related to that. And the billboards that will be going up will be hopefully done through art that whoever wins the artist prize for the billboards related to vaping, that's what we'll be putting onto the billboards in the fall. So that'll be fall to winter. So that is one update I have. And I think that's it for Health and Human Services.
I just had a question.
Oh.
I know a couple meetings ago, there was discussion about a texting line that was being used in winter and LCO for like suicide prevention.
Mm-hmm.
And that it was gonna be going into newer numbers or like the usage of it. Has there been any movement on getting it?
I actually can speak to that. I forgot about that one. Thanks for bringing that up. Actually, they are not going to go forward with that. So,
Yeah, I was just gonna answer. Very good question.
it sounds like the usage, when they looked at winter and LCO, the usage with the kids, it was just a small percentage. It got used a lot by a small percentage of kids. So I think the concern was, are they really going to go forward with the full picture, or are we going to do other things in place of that? So at this point, I thought they were holding.
Who makes that decision?
The school does, yeah. hmm
Denied that?
I don't know. Actually, we should talk about it next month. Because I don't want to give any false information. I'm not exactly sure. But
Yeah, we need to push on them. The percentage doesn't matter if it's even a couple of kids that use it.
yeah,
That's the important thing.
yeah. So we can talk about that. That's 20,000. I think that's the other thing, because they would need to keep it running. It would be a big chunk of money to get it going. And so I know, but are there other things that are in place? But let's talk with Joyce about it, because she'll have firsthand knowledge.
Okay, let's
So-
keep it on the,
Yep, we can do that.
Put
Thanks
that
for
on
bringing
the
that back.
agenda to
We'll put
keep
the
it discussed.
specifics of School Pulse to be added.
Okay, so we'll add School Pulse to the agenda for next time under Youth Justice Update.
Under Health and Human Services.
Oh, okay, under Health and Human Services. All right.
I might actually even change what that looks like, because we could put Health and Human Services, we could have opioid update and youth justice update, and have it just all under one instead of separate line items.
Okay.
So it might make more sense as we move forward.
There's one thing that I wanted to bring up as a topic under youth justice.
Yep, and if we're going on to youth justice, we've got Sarah here. She
Okay.
can come up and give the update.
All right, let's go ahead and do that.
Do you want to ask your question first?
No, you go ahead. Sorry. I was just saying it so that I said it, so that I didn't forget.
Okay. So I think the most exciting thing that Youth Justice currently has to announce is that we were approved for the state-funded grant. That's the Youth Innovation Grant. That grant is for $100,000. And so this is going to make it so we can begin to start to implement the diversion program that we have been talking about. Because we don't want to take on too much too fast, and because we're only going to be able to start with 2 part-time workers until we can get the funding and new budget year and potentially make that full-time positions. Our main focus is going to be truancy, because we feel like that is the biggest concern in our community right now. And being able to support these kids and families that think it's okay to drop out of school and there's no repercussions for that. So the new message is going to start to be, it's illegal to drop out of school. You cannot make that choice until you are 18 years old. And now there's going to be some staff that can help hold these kids accountable and the families accountable. So our hopes, of course, is that we can do this all informally without having to send additional cases to court. However, as we all know, we don't have magic wands, and sometimes our persuasive speeches and encouragement doesn't quite do the trick. So in those, we're hoping to be few cases. We would have to send those cases to court to get a court order and we can make orders for the juvenile and the parent or parents as well. Our hope is really that this is going to start to change a lot in our community. The second thing that we're going to be working on is the drugs and alcohol that seem to be very popular with our youth at this time. When we can make that more of a full-time position, we are additionally going to take that on as well. What else? The funding doesn't come in until January of 2025, so we will not be able to start until we receive that funding. We do have the potential to, if LCO could partner with us and kind of donate to this program to get started sooner, if we could find funding for about $10,000 to maybe $12,000, we could start this year yet. I have reached out to a few people that I know from the tribe, but it's kind of in between grants, and so it doesn't sound at this point like that's going to work out. So if anyone here knows of different entities that could potentially help, that would be wonderful. We do plan to really partner this with the truancy court on the tribal end of things, and also take referrals from them over here so that we can do a little bit more with it. Anything else on that, Julia, that you can think of?
No, I guess the only other thing is, I haven't checked the Exhibit E yet. It may be something that we could look at, some opioid funding to help get this jump started early. So, but I would have to double check the exhibits to make sure that fit in that funding source.
I guess I do have one more thing I didn't touch on. We are fairly certain we're going to be approved for the federal grant that we applied for. We should be finding out any day. It sounds like communication between the deputy director and the federal person managing the grants have been in conversation, and they've really been working with us to help make our grant meet all of the bench points or benchmarks, because they really want to fund Sawyer County. And I think this is really exceptional because there's only 2 counties in the entire state of Wisconsin that are being awarded this grant, and they just really see our need and say this is exactly what they wanted to fund. So I think that is really awesome news.
Judge Smith, you wanted to add something?
I just wanted to talk about the tribe's truancy court. And what I see is a lot of vaping. I have a lot of kids that continue to vape. And so what I've been doing is make them write me a paper about the bad effects of vaping on children, give them my grandma lecture court, and then I'll make them go do community service for elders. And most of them do it, but there are always those that don't. And so that's what I'm seeing, and as well as bullying. Bullying seems to be an issue, especially the girls. And I don't know what the school is doing about that, but it doesn't seem to be getting any better.
And specifically, the tribe has an ordinance that vaping is not allowed on the reservation. So not only are they,
We bring that up as
Yeah.
well. And then, everybody's shocked, really?
yeah,
I didn't know that. And the other thing is that we have applied for the a juvenile healing to wellness grant, and we'll hear about that in about a week or two. So we're hoping that we get it. So that's all. I'm happy for you, happy that you're getting the grant.
Thank you.
And just to kind of piggyback on the whole vaping piece of it, as we get into this a little bit further, it is so addictive and so difficult for these kids to get off of it. And it's unfortunate because if you're 18 or older, you can wear a patch and you can get all these additional helps. And we, as we look through at some of the programming, especially with this next grant that we're hoping that we will be getting, there are pieces of the vaping, alcohol, and drug portion that kind of work with body and mind to try to help those behaviors to stop vaping. So it's one thing for us to gotta not do it, but it is truly, truly more addictive than cigarettes are. And the other difficult piece, right, is because you can't smell it, so you can't even get on kids right away because you don't even realize that they're doing it. So
yeah. And we've seen also that it's not just, nicotine, it's THC, and it's also really hard to detect that because there's no way for us to know, right? Mr. Helbig?
A couple things. How, see, I'm gonna put this. How does vaping correlate with truancy? And my other thing was, we'd really need to figure out how we can keep the vapes out of the hands of the kids. How are they getting the vapes? Because what is it, 18 or 21? I forget now. 21, so, how, that's the big problem. really.
Unfortunately, very easily. But I will say that these are juvenile forfeitures, citations that come through, and that's why they're under youth justice. So it could be truancy, could be vaping. They'd be different citations, but some of these kids are going to school and vaping at school. So maybe that's not truancy, but you're still vaping at school. Vaping not at school, still citation worthy, they're under the age. So they're all basically different types of citations that we see for juveniles.
I just asked because I heard vaping and truancy together there, and I'm like. oh,
Yeah,
is that
just
something?
both high volume issues for youth justice.
and with your truancy ones, we have an audience right there ready to go to be able to also get them vaping education right there. The other piece I can speak to is that parents still think that it's better off to be vaping than doing anything else, and that it's just THC, no big deal. We all did it as kids, that's kind of the thought process. And and the big piece is people are not understanding that the potency now is completely different than years ago. And so much bigger impacts. And then the other thing is these, I don't have one sitting in front of me, but vapes can look like a USB flash drive. They can look like a highlighter. They can look like anything. Yeah, they look like anything. And so parents need to be taught how to be able to find them. And we also need to give parents resources on what do I do when I find this? it with my kids. So there's a lot of components that we'll be looking at this fall when we're looking at this programming.
Just like what we did when we were kids. You find someone older who can go buy it for you.
Unfortunately, it's very easy to do, and I feel like especially in our community, and this is part of what I want to start to change, is the generational cycle of education isn't important. Look at me, I'm doing just fine. And that's the message they're sending to kids. And parents don't care if their kids are using marijuana, not going to school. So it's really a huge problem that has started with the parents. And the whole purpose of diversion is those are the main areas that we're looking at as kind of the gateway into youth justice. They're starting to make these poor decisions, vaping, using marijuana, not going to school. And then that leads them to the youth justice world where they're formally involved in the system. And that's really why we want to start to implement this program so that we get ahead of the game. I think that's the only way to start to change what's been going on.
Judge Smith?
I just wanted to bring up that a good resource for all the vaping information that might be out there, the little, detail that they put on them to make them hidden. You can subscribe to Tall Cop newsletter, and it's free, and he has a lot of really good information on his website.
Thank you.
When you have meetings with kids about truancy or vaping, whatever, when they get citations, whatever, do the parents come in when the kids are brought in?
Well, you probably.
Or they're requested them?
So sometimes.
Youth justice, we do not take any truancy referrals or marijuana or drinking referrals because we're at such capacity with like true crime delinquency
Sure.
that we don't have the ability to take that on. So I
Right.
guess I don't know.
Right. So the way that these are coming in, and honestly, this is one of the things that I was going to kind of veer off into with the youth justice is, the citations for things that are happening at school are issued through the school resource officer. I don't honestly know because it seems like there's a lot of different things that go into it, but and I think that it's different for each school and not just each school district, but each individual school. Like the primary, the intermediate, the middle, the high school, they all have their own policy. They all have their own way of what they do or not do before issuing a citation. I have so many questions. And to be fair, I've not asked these questions to the school board yet. So it's not that they're not answering my questions, but I have so many questions about what goes into even issuing these citations in the first place. And so a lot of those questions I find out about them right when I'm sitting in court calling the case, because we have sometimes one parent will be cited over another parent. And I say, well, why? Why did that happen? Parents will even say, we're an intact family. Why is Mom the only one getting this citation? Or we're not an intact family and we have 50-50 placement. Child goes to school every single day. They're with me. Why am I getting the citation? So we have a lot of questions. Honestly, we're scratching the surface of this because now we've been afforded the time to do that. And I think that we're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to be able to move forward thanks to your efforts and your efforts in getting the funding to be able to start these programs. So it's in progress, but brand new. So now your question about whether or not parents come to court, it's kind of a toss up and that's just my experience.
You said when you come to court, so is that where these kids are getting their?
Yeah, if you get a citation, you come to court. Well,
Okay.
you should.
So
Sometimes they don't.
The school should be working with them and like Judge said, it's sometimes each school works with the parents in a different way in the students. So it's kind of unknown how that is. When this program starts to get up and running, we'll be obviously pulling all the pieces together. There'll be a pathway through truancy. What does that look like? How are we monitoring that and moving forward? So It's a lot to get going, but I think it'll be really good work in the long run.
Yeah, and,
So, just
I'm sorry, hold
so
on.
I'm clear that they're not getting spoken to until they get to court.
Sometimes, at
Well-
least that's the information that I get when they get there.
That's what it
And,
sounds like.
and sometimes I have parents say, nobody at the school has ever said anything to me, and yet we're here getting citation. Sometimes I have parents who are fully, completely aware of the situation.
Mhm.
It's a toss-up and it's different between every school. And we don't have anybody from the school there ever at these hearings. That's another thing I want to change. If you're going to have, if you're going to be issuing a citation, you need to come and prosecute, essentially. That
Mhm.
may not be the right word to use, but you need to come and present your case on why this person should be found, to have to pay the citation. So,
I would add to that.
Truancy officer?
no, we have nobody from the school come.
I would add to that with, when we get juvenile referrals, and Marshall, maybe you could help spread the word on this too, but we call parents and parents are often like, what's going on? There's so many
Mhm.
that had no idea that it was going to be this serious and we were going to be calling. I think it's important to be transparent with families and saying, hey, just a heads up, I'm gonna have to send this. I think there's the saying, we're gonna contact juvenile services or we're gonna send this, and we don't know what they're gonna do. I think that's the kind of the perception they take. But I think if we can say youth justice or juvenile services is going to be contacting you, your son is being charged or daughter is being charged with criminal damage to property. They often have none of that information. And I think it's frustrating to parents to be kind of blown out of the water by
Mhm.
at times.
Yeah, we've got a lot to fix here, honestly. And, again, I'm not trying to make this, let's all jump on the school. They probably don't even know, what to do either. And that's not being communicated necessarily to them, at least yet. It will be now because we're gonna start addressing this issue. But, yeah, and my intention is not to, bash the school board or anything that they're doing. It's just that this has not been able to we haven't been able to go into depth on this before. Now we finally can. Judge Apple.
Thank you. Kind of just to go off of what you've been saying, I'm not trying to bash the school either, but there, at least in the experience that I've had, when there was a time when the school did show up. And a lot of times what they would do, and I think, I can't remember one of the names, but I think he's still on there. But this is an indication as to what the present people are going to be doing or would be doing. But it was set up in a way where they would come in and then we're supposed to, meaning that the court system is supposed to, yell at them or do whatever. And then the school was always like, well, they're a good kid, so you're gonna have this, we think you could give them a pass on this one. Why are we here then?
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of that. It was like, when you got in there, they didn't want to be the bad guy.
Mhm.
And there's, this probably doesn't apply to a lot of situations, but, I want to be able to ask questions about, okay, if this is a middle schooler or a freshman, are there other issues here? Is there an IEP involved here? Is the school following the IEP?
Right.
Yeah, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Because I think a lot of times this is a difficult situation and just write the citation.
Yeah, and all we get, for everyone's knowledge, all we get is the citation. We don't even know how many days they missed. We don't know when they missed school. We don't know anything. That should be the school coming and telling us.
We don't
these
know if
things.
it's an intact family.
We don't know anything other than just what's on the citation. And usually it'll just say truancy first offense or truancy second offense.
I
That's
will-
literally the only information we know.
So if they want to know, if they want us to fix it, or at least to be a part of fixing
Yeah.
it, there's lots more information we need.
Yeah.
I currently, because I used to work in Pierce County, and I reached out to one of the principals that's from over there just so that we could have the outline of, there's a lot of, if you look at the statutes, there's a lot of requirements from the school that their efforts need to be prior to sending to youth justice, or in this case, diversion. And so there's gonna be basically a packet they need to fill out with a lot of information, and they have to make their efforts first. The other thing that I would also add on this topic is good news that I did talk to Principal Doug Stark, and At this time, they have a 10-day drop policy. I think I've brought up before, that they've been very like, no, we're not gonna get rid of that. And that's been a frustration of mine because I'm like, you're basically allowing these kids to drop out even though it's illegal. So, in talking to Doug, he said if we get this program in place, he feels that they would drop that policy.
That would be great.
Yeah.
So now, go ahead.
One, truancy officer, do we have, or we did have a one?
So there's a school resource officer. I don't know the details on where that officer is.
So we have a couple that, I mean, they're just the school resource officer. I think Amber Amarabi, is that how you say her last name? She is the one specifically in charge of truancy across the board, I think.
Yeah, she handles truancy across the whole county. And the city has 2 school resource officers, and LCO has a full-time school resource officer as well in their school, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that's where, so they're issuing the citation.
Okay, maybe we should have them.
Who issues
Come
the
in.
school resource officer or Amber issues the citation?
Amber would.
Amber's the
Truancy.
She's our
deputy
county.
officer, yes.
Yeah.
Countywide. Mhm.
Maybe we should have her come in and maybe answer some questions.
You know, and I think that she's just as confused and frustrated by the situation as we
A
are.
larger meeting just to discuss, hey, we got this, we're gonna be moving forward. Get
Let's do that.
players at the table and
Let's do that.
make a plan.
Yeah. And we have our first meeting actually with you guys coming up.
Next week, right? Next Thursday,
So,
something
We've
like that.
already got one on the books to be talking through the legal system, and then we'll be bringing in the schools.
I was gonna go there because I've been through this in another county and eventually, I mean, there were some flaws in the ordinance we had to address, but basically we had to sit down with the judges, school administration, the truancy people and say, this is what we need from you, this is what we need from you. And I don't know if we can hammer it out here, but it sounds like it needs to be done.
And just quickly, before we wrap this up, because I know it's already getting close to time here. The one thing that I did want to say, and it does relate to youth justice and to the school, unfortunately, again, I'm not trying to just bash what's going on there, but another thing that I'm seeing a lot, and I think that is a youth justice issue, is the use of phones in school. I know because I reached out to the school board about this, that each school, and in fact, each teacher has their own policy about phone use in that school and in that classroom. Some teachers will actually put the notes up and say, just take a picture with your phone. So I've actually had trials that directly relate to phone use in school, causing children to fight in school. It is a problem. And I believe that they don't want to address it because this is my own personal belief, I suppose, because they don't want the flack that might come from individuals in the community who think that their kids should have their phone at all times. So just bringing that up because it is something that I'm seeing as a problem. And I think that also needs to be addressed at some point with the school board.
Very much. And, we talk about bullying and so like
Yes.
this, 99% stems from social media.
The things that I have to read in these children's text messages, I don't even know these words exist. It's really frightening. I'm thankful that there were not phones when I was in school. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I do want to share with all
Mhm.
and everybody from but if there's anything new that they're not aware they need to make effort, they're just not. So I think being held to the standard to actually do it. So I don't want that to be missed because we did have.
We've tried, yeah.
And also, I just had a question, I don't know off the top of my head. As far as the baby goes, is there a number of how many citations were issued in last year's going to need for the money that was asked for it? Because I know like there are some, but it'd be interesting to know how many, because it's.
Well, and-
But naturally you can know for.
And if vaping is such a problem, I mean, then is it shown in the numbers of the citations that are being issued or if it's a big problem and there's not issuing the citations, then why are you not issuing the citations? I mean, so it would be interesting to see if the citations.
I think that there's way more usage than what we're gonna see citations. It's getting, I mean, there's usage everywhere. We hear it from kids saying they can't even go into the bathrooms because there's so much vaping. Yeah, and that might be the next question. Mhm.
I would answer or maybe piggyback off of what Anna said about that we had this meeting previously. I think there was a lot of lack of direction at that time because
We were new.
weren't certain as to, well, we were new and we weren't certain as to where we could go and we needed more funding and we need more employees. And it's such a bigger problem than we were able to take on at that time. I think there was some frustration, that it felt like a lot of people from the school were like, why do we have to be here? So it's like everybody wants to make the problem go away, but nobody wants to put in the work to do it.
Mhm.
Does anybody know who the school board chair is?
He was at that meeting last year.
No, that's changed though. That's changed. Mhm.
That's Monday.
Next Monday.
Next Monday at 5.
I wanna get
Yeah.
on their board, to shut down the use of phones in our school system. It's
There,
ridiculous.
I know that there are people who think that, so my mind works in arguments, okay?
Mhm.
The argument to have phones is safety, the school shooting incidences. Parents want to be able to know if their child is safe if there's a school shooting, okay? And that's the only argument that I ever hear that is, and it's sickening to me that we even have to have that argument.
Mhm.
But that's what I hear on the opposite side of that. But I don't think that that overshadows the actual, I mean, it's an everyday battle that these kids are going through because of phones. And, you know, I'm a parent myself, my kids are in this school, so I get both sides of this argument, I do. But at the end of the day, like, the things that these kids are going through because of the phone, it's just outrageous and there needs to be an end to it. But
Totally agree.
I'm off my soapbox now. All right, well, I thank you all for that discussion. I think that was great. Thank you for being on the spot that entire time. I appreciate your time. We'll go ahead and move on really, really quick because Bruce is beating me to the sentencing hearing right now. Okay, so next is community service updates.
Do you have anything, Katie, from your
Nothing? Okay, all right, let's move on. Outside committee updates. Okay. Future agenda items, I think we agreed to keep on the MOU. And then if we can add school pulse under Health and Human Services report. Did anybody else want to put anything on the agenda? Okay. Okay, hearing nothing else, then, correspondence reports from conferences and meetings. Well, we did hear one. Becky's in a hurricane. Otherwise, I don't think anything else. Okay, then we will be adjourned.